For this Iowa Conference duel against the number 1 ranked Wartburg Knights. We'll welcome in the number 17th ranked Cohawks in this conference duel. I also got to mention it's senior night. I'm Tyler Metcalf. Alongside me, Matt Groomer. We'll be giving you all the action tonight. The last matchup with these two teams came on January 9th at the IWCA duels, where Wartburg defeated Co 31-6, and Co's only 2 victories coming from their only 2 ranked wrestlers as well, being Farai Sarawat and Ryan Harrington, beating Andrew Steyer and Brandon Welter, both of them winning 3-2 over Steyer and Welter. And then this past Saturday, Wartburg hosted the Iowa Conference duels and just swept the competition in dominating fashion, beating Buena Vista 44-7, which featured some new faces in the lineup, and then defeating Central 44-0, finally beating Dubuque 34-4. And in a video we'll see later with Coach Keller, thanks to Luke Benner for that, Coach Keller really challenged his guys and pushed his guys to be ready and be ready to go right away, and just challenged them to be better than what they have been. So Co comes in tonight with a tough task to take down these red-hot Knights.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Tyler. And the really big key, I mean, the motto for this team for Wartburg is win the next one. Win the next one. That was instilled by the former head coach Jim Miller a few seasons ago, and they have every belief that they're going to do that tonight. The tough task, you mentioned that 31-6 loss earlier in the season. Both rosters, it seems like, as we saw with the Iowa Conference duels this past weekend, they've kind of been shifted a little bit. They've been shaken up, especially with the Knights this past weekend. We've seen how versatile and deep they are. And for Co, back on that about a month ago when they did lose to the Knights 31-6, they had some roster issues as well. But it looks like tonight, based on who they've got set out here, it's going to be as competitive as all these fans hope it will be.
Yeah, and you look at Wartburg from their standpoint, they have 9 ranked wrestlers, just one wrestler not being ranked, that being Kazona, who was previously ranked. And then for Co, only 2 ranked wrestlers, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, just because the rankings may not swing in the favor of Co. Still expect a good matchup tonight throughout, every match.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about it. You look at the series of the last few years in the Iowa Conference, it's come down to these 2 squads warming up right now. Co and Wartburg have been the dominant 2, the top tier of the Iowa Conference, which again is arguably the best conference in all of Division III wrestling. And for these 2 programs to do so well, I think it speaks for itself. But 2 things really, 2 storylines tonight. One, you already mentioned, senior night for the Knights, a bundle of them here, going to be wrestling their last time here at Levick Arena. And then for the Cohawks, for them to be second and so close to defeating the Knights just year after year, it seems, and coming up to Levick, it's always 1 versus 2, and they seem to just be getting the short hand of the stick every year. I think that's going to play into tonight and how much bad blood is between these 2 teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned how close Co has been over the past couple of years. I believe their highest finish nationally was 4th under their head coach, who's done a great job
they've had
making
great
them
teams.
very successful. So, we expect a good one tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, you talk about Coach Keller, who we'll get to in just a second. He's had such a big impact on this team coming into tonight.
We'll send it to a video for Coach Keller.
Coach, senior Ben Nagel has a team best 21 wins and has a winning streak of 19. What have you seen from him this season?
Consistency. I mean, that guy obviously the way he's been performing out in the mat, but what he brings into the room every day, it's consistent, and he comes in focused on a mission to get better every single day. And he's leading our team. I mean, he's the leader of this team, and it's not a vocal way of leading. It's just by what he does every single day. And guys have taken note of that. And I think that's more powerful anyways, when you got a guy that walks the walk and does all the right things and, doesn't hurt that he's the heavyweight, so everybody's going to listen anyways. But, no, I mean, he's leading this team right now. And the work that he's put in the last couple of years, yeah, he was behind Fank, but he didn't view it as time off. I mean, he viewed it as, I got to get better right now, so when I get my opportunity, I'm ready to go. And I think you're seeing that. All the work that he's put in the last couple of years and the work that he's putting in, I mean, he's puts a lot of work in with Coach Ortner, and that guy's one of the best big guy coaches in the nation, and he's working with that guy. And so all that stuff is starting to kind of come to fruition, and you're seeing it out in the mat.
Friday, you host Co in the Iowa Conference Championship, as we can see all the banners behind us. What do you tell the team on that banner day?
It's a history lesson, and we had Coach Miller come down. I mean, who tells the story better than him? He's been here this whole time. He's been through every one of those. And but the message is this, it's bigger than you. Each one of those banners that's up there had to be won, had to be fought for, and each one had a different path to get it done. But the thing that remained the same was the group took it upon themselves to get it done, and it's this group's turn. And this group has embraced that all year long. They've looked forward to that, but to get what we want, we got to be prepared to go these next 2 duels to get that, and so the message is hold the rope. That's what we always talk about, holding the rope. And it's this group's turn to hold the rope, and they're fired up about that opportunity.
Great. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Wartburg Football Halftime Show, sponsored by Waverly Subway.
You're an active person. You always want the best from your body. And when an injury slows you down, you turn to the best. At the Waverly Health Center Orthopedic Clinic, Dr. Linda Martin, nurse practitioner Carrie Van E, and the health center team offer cutting-edge technology and personal patient-centered care. Knee and hip injuries, muscle strains and tears, no matter what sidelines you. Let our team get you back in the game. Waverly Health Center. We make a difference you can feel.
Welcome back to Night Vision. Now we'll send it over to a quick pack done by Luke Benna.
That was really awkward.
How is a successful man defined? Is he defined by how many national championships are brought home? Or is he defined by the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that are spilt in a season? Or is it as simple as deciding to wake up in the morning and make that decision to not only make yourself better, but also to push the people around you to want success? Taking these simple concepts and turning them into reality requires a different type of person. A person with high intensity and high energy that is willing to lead his team to victory. A person that never gives up on his passion for not only the sport of wrestling, but also as his role as coach.
He's a coach of a program that's won so many national titles. He's great at motivating guys and just, I'd say, bringing out the best of them.
You definitely know when you come in that Keller's a man. It's just cool to be around someone who knows that much about the sport and can teach you.
I mean, coaching for me is just about seeing guys get their dream, and that's what I love about it. It's a passion for me. It's never ever been something that I've viewed as a job. I mean, I come here and I get to help guys, on and off the mat, and that's my passion, and that's what I love to do. And really, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing guys get their dream.
Dude, you've had the best week this week that you've had all year. Seriously, like you are right here, man. Carry that over today.
Well, I've been wrestling for a long time, so I've had a lot of coaches, and I can definitely say he's at the top. His experiences and his just philosophy, it just gives him that great coach feeling, when you're around him. So.
Somebody calling you out, big boy? Somebody staring at you down? What's going on? Somebody messing with you? Let's make that statement. Let's do what we were talking about. Every guy. Get us started here, man. Let's go. Champs on 3. 1, 2, 3. Champs. Get it, Pop.
Keller definitely has more energy than any other coach I've ever met. He's there for you at practice. He'll help you out one-on-one every day. If you need something, he'll be there for you. If you might have an off day, he might shoot you a text that night and see what's going on.
One match. We'll freaking sell out, man.
The guy just has an energy level that everyone loves. That's the reason why I came here, it's just one of those things that kind of just pulls you in. It's looking over there in the corner and seeing someone, you know, that you can trust. But yeah, that guy, the one thing is, man, that guy can go. He just, I don't know. It's all the coffee he drinks.
Honestly, Coach, when he's drinking coffee, he kind of reminds me of the little squirrel off of Over the Ledge. The squirrels are always like, they're already like moving, like energetic, but then once he gets the coffee in them, it's just like a whole nother level. He just turns it up. It's just a different Keller when he drinks coffee.
You know, I think if he stopped drinking coffee, he wouldn't make it to practice.
Don't hurt your wrist. Is that bad hand? You don't have a bad hand. You don't have a bad hand. I ain't got a bad hand, Coach.
I'd say crazy. To be a coach, you got to have so many different personalities, and it's not easy to do. And to want to be a coach of a wrestling team that has so much pressure, like I said earlier, like takes a different individual.
If it could, that guy would be out there wrestling with us, you know? He would strap on a singlet and go out there. There's a couple times I think he's going to run on the mat and just stop the whole match and be like, okay, you got to do this.
Absolutely, I miss being out there. You know how many times I want to climb out of that chair and get out on that mat? I mean, every meet, you know, at least some point in the meet, you know. That's probably the hardest thing there is, because until I finally shut my mind off at some point when I run out of steam and go to sleep, my mind's still racing, I'm still at that level. I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is, man. That's the honest truth. It's time for us to have it down to a science. You know exactly what you do every single time to be at your best. Don't leave anything to chance, man. You work too damn hard to leave anything to chance. Be ready to go every single time. All right? Good job on that first one, man. Let's roll. Let's roll on this next one. Let's do this. Fight on 3. 1, 2, 3. Fight. I'll be upstairs making coffee.
Welcome back to Night Vision here. Tyler Metcalf, Matt Groomer giving you all the calls tonight. And as you can see, senior night is going on as they honor those guys. But up here, we will get into the matches of the night. And starting off for that is the 165-pound competition. Andrew Steyer will go up against Farai Sawara. Sawara again beat Steyer earlier on in the year. And then looking on to 175, Brandon Welter against Ryan Harrington. And again, Harrington defeated Welter earlier on this year as well.
Yeah, we talked about classes are going to be unquestionably, easily, no doubt about it, the matches to watch tonight. Steyer, just a sophomore. It's unbelievable how much growth he's had. And then you look at Sawara, the junior, being ranked second in the nation. He's been up in that top 5 tier, not only this year but last year as well. A lot of experience under his belt. We're looking to see if that takes into effect tonight. And then, you look at the weight class above that. Welter, a senior. Harrington, just a sophomore, a young guy from New Jersey out east, but he's had a lot of success here in the Iowa Conference, especially against Brandon Welter. And, with that experience against a young guy like that, a sophomore, it's going to be very fun to watch tonight.
Yeah, and Steyer, I'm excited. He didn't wrestle against Buena Vista during these Iowa Conference duels, and I didn't get to see if he wrestled later, but I haven't seen him wrestle in quite some time, so I'm excited to see him wrestle tonight, especially against good competition.
Yeah, you bet. There's a lot of young guys, up and down, especially for the Cohawks, and really for this Knights team if you've been following them all year. A lot of guys to replace on their roster, more so for the Knights coming in. An incredible story if this is your first time joining us. The Knights unranked to begin the season and now number 1 in the nation. The Cohawks were actually a top 10 team to begin the year, and now obviously number 17 after falling to Luther. And obviously we know they're a team that the Knights handled pretty well at home here early on in the year.
Yeah, and you mentioned not being ranked at the beginning of the year. Wartburg wasn't, and it's incredible why they weren't. Obviously they lost a lot of seniors, but they felt kind of disrespected, and they've come out and they've proven that they belong in that number 1 spot, and they've done a good job throughout this year, battling every meet, every duel, and just doing a great job.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And one thing that we should, we'll echo it throughout the broadcast tonight, but these seniors for this Knights team, although not all of them in the starting lineup role tonight, up and down the weight classes, but so many mean so much to this team. And if you watch the Iowa Conference duels, that depth on the roster really showcased itself on Saturday. Buena Vista, Central, and Dubuque right here at Levick Arena. They performed very well, and a bunch of these guys wrestle underneath other guys who get that starting role. And one thing this team does so well, they don't glorify one person. Although they have 2 or 3 guys at each weight class, they respect each other, and again, although you may not be starting tonight in the on the mat, you have the same amount of respect for the rest of the team.
Yeah, and again, if this isn't your first time joining us, then you have heard us say it before, that everybody in that wrestling room, day in and day out throughout practice, is worthy on this team. And whether you're in that starting lineup or not, senior or not, you're going to be ready to battle every day, and that's exactly what they do, and that's why they've been so successful over the past how many years.
Well, yeah, and you look at the guys getting honored down there. I'm a senior myself, so I've seen these guys really grow from their freshman year and now being a senior in the spotlight, and deservedly so. They performed very well, and we saw some of those guys this weekend. Some out-of-state guys, Dakota Bosch from Louisiana, had a great victory this past weekend. Jake Agnich, one of the guys that I have coined kind of a leader for this team. And you look at the coach right there on your screen, the former head coach Jim Miller, a big reason for a lot of these seniors and their success, and that's why he's in the stands tonight.
Yeah, and you just see Eric Keller there just kind of giving a little talk to his team as well and thanking them, the seniors. So we'll take a quick little time out here, and then we'll be right back on Night Vision.
The next 30 seconds can save you a lot of money. Just do your laundry in cold and stick to full loads. Auto-sleep your computers. Plug your gadgets in a power strip and switch it off when you're done. Headed out? Turn back your thermostat by 10 degrees. And drive sensibly. The more energy you save, the more money you save. Find other great tips at energysaver.gov.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
We need more space. Let's visit Security State Bank and talk about a new home loan. That's a good idea.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Joel.
Hi, Nicole.
Hello.
We're here to talk about a new home loan.
Wonderful. Right this way.
Security State Bank is ready to assist you with all your banking needs. Bank locally at one of our 3 locations in Waverly, Shell Rock, or Springville today, or visit us online.
Welcome back to Night Vision here, and again, the seniors just being honored on senior night. We take a look up and down the roster for those seniors. Jake Agnich out of Ames, Dakota Bosch out of Louisiana, and again, we mentioned a couple times how a lot of out-of-state guys. Braxton Chikeli from Cedar Rapids, Jamie Gray from Battle Creek, Nebraska, Stephen Klemenikis from Louisiana as well, Mark Pinero, another one from Louisiana, St. Rose, and finally Brandon Welter from Don Bosco, Gilbertville. So again, thanks to these seniors for what they've done throughout this program these 4 years.
No doubt about it. You see the fans on their feet on the opposite side here in Levick Arena showing their love for the black and orange tonight, and deservedly so. And for the Cohawks, as is usual here the past few years, traveling in numbers to root on their squad as well. Number 2 in the Iowa Conference. Always a top, we've mentioned, always a top 25 team. And really here in the Iowa Conference, just a performer year in and year out. Although falling to Luther 20-16, should be a competitive night.
And now we'll step aside real quick for the national anthem.
Thanks for watching the Wartburg Football Halftime Show, sponsored by Waverly Subway.
You're an active person. You always want the best from your body. And when an injury slows you down, you turn to the best. At the Waverly Health Center Orthopedic Clinic, Dr. Linda Martin, nurse practitioner Carrie Van E, and the Health Center team offer cutting-edge technology and personal patient-centered care. Knee and hip injuries, muscle strains and tears, no matter what sidelines you. Let our team get you back in the game. Waverly Health Center. We make a difference you can feel.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
As Wartburg alumni, we're proud to support Knights Athletics. And as First National Bank employees, we're here to serve you first.
Welcome back to Night Vision, and again, Tyler Metcalf, Matt Groomer on the call for you guys tonight in this Iowa Conference duel against Senior Night. Those guys just getting honored, and now we are into the starting lineups for these guys. Who will wrestle who? And a lot of the times for the Knights, don't really know who's going to go out there. Sometimes have two guys going out. But we see here at 157, Drew Wagenhofer will go up against Ryan Donovan. And then one of our matches to watch, it looks like Steyr won't be going out there. It looks like it's Nick Michael tonight instead of the third-ranked Steyr going up against Farai Sawera. And then Brandon Welter and Ryan Harrington at 174 pounds. These guys have met before. Again, Harrington coming out victorious 3-2. Then at 184, either Devin Peterson or Brendan Schott going up against Ryan Sheldon. 197 pounds. Looks like Gerard Roman going to be going against Donnie Horner, who was previously ranked. And then rounding it off is Ben Nagel versus Nick Ellsbury.
Hey, look at that up and down. Some surprises, I guess, not necessarily to a lot of the Wartburg fans who maybe as to who is going to be wrestling for the Knights tonight. And you see this Wartburg team, and you got to give credit to Coach Keller for the confidence he has in these guys. Able to switch up the roster night in and night out, and you're going to see a lot of these unranked guys for the Knights tonight go up head-to-head against some of these similarly talented guys. Again, the Co-Hawks very similar in talent ability, but it's going to be that much more exciting now.
And underway we are here at Levick Arena, Agnich and Rosenberg. And the two kind of hand fighting here early on. A little bit of tying up going on as well. And again, Agnich, the senior who was just recently honored from Ames, went to Ames High School as well. Going up against Rosenberg, a guy from New Jersey.
We mention it, a lot of the times with Agnich. He's just been a dominant force for this Knights team. Starting off dual meets has really been his forte. You look at him this past weekend, performed very well. He's had some close victories. He's had some really blowout victories, too, and you got to give that credit to the senior. You look at him take a quick shot at that right leg, and he's just so enthusiastic in his wrestling ability.
And now Agnich trying to finish the single leg, but can't do so, and Rosenberg gets in on a leg, but nothing doing. Back to the center. That gets an applause from both benches. Good fight. Good job by Rosenberg not allowing a takedown there. But, yeah, like you mentioned, Agnich has just done a great job, getting the ball rolling for the Knights at this 125-pound, he's kind of like I mentioned before, a leadoff in baseball.
Yeah.
He just does a good job at essentially getting on base.
And he's had so much, success and improvement, I think, has been the biggest part of his career, growth. He wrestled under Gilberto Camacho last year for the Knights, number one man here at 125 for the Knights. And Agnich has just proven himself. He wrestled underneath him. Might get 2 points here, but he's increased his win total just year in and year out.
And a takedown for Agnich. He gets the first takedown of the match and of the night. Now he's working to get the legs in, trying to get control of the wrist while on top. Rosenberg trying to free himself up and get back to his base. Struggling to do so as Agnich, both those legs in between.
Well, a New Jersey kid, you look at Rosenberg, some of his stats on the year. Career record is just sub 500 at 25 and 29, but he's had some really big victories, especially in Iowa Conference matchups, and I think that's going to really propel him tonight. And, how far can he go just being a sophomore against the senior?
Yeah, and he's done a good job battling as they near the out-of-bounds circle, and they'll go back to the center here. But it's just like Agnich for the Knights. He's got to be a good leadoff guy at this 125-pound weight.
And, it goes without saying here, whenever you take on the Knights, heard Jim Miller speak a couple of weeks ago, and he said it's so fun, not necessarily in a dual competition because you know who your opponent's going to be, but really at some of these opens when he said it's so fun when some of the other teams will be warming up and you see a team like Wartburg that's been so historical, speaking since he took over in 91, and when they enter the wrestling room, how some teams will just shudder in fear to look at these. But I think Co is a team that has learned, to kind of take that in stride. They know how good this Wartburg team is. They know how good they can be, and I think year in and year out, they're one of the few teams in the Iowa Conference that can really, exploit some of these weaknesses that the Knights have.
And you make a great point. As the first period comes to an end, the score 2-1 in favor of Agnich. And it looks like Rosenberg will select to be on bottom to start this second period. Good initial jump, but nothing to it. Good job by Agnich going to that left ankle and keeping him down. Now going right back to getting his legs under him and in control, both those wrists there. Not allowing Rosenberg to get up to his base, trying to do that early on. He's also up to 1 minute and 15 seconds of riding time.
Was just going to point that out, an early advantage, and that's one that really Agnich prides himself on. He tries to get early. Being the leadoff guy, you have to get some momentum swung your way, and an early takedown will do that, certainly. But then if you can continue to control your guy on the mat as he is doing, just look at these, the forearm picks right up there and continuing to push down. A big thing you're going to see this coaching staff yell a lot tonight. Coach Keller already out of his seat, as he normally is 98% of the night, but just always saying continue to drive for these guys, and certainly Agnich right now doing that.
And you mentioned Coach Keller again. Thanks to Luke Benna for that great story that was played earlier on in the broadcast. Coach Keller, crazy guy, always drinks a lot of coffee. Is what those guys say. But he's always so energetic, and he's someone that you can trust on that sideline. As Agnich does a good job staying on top and keeping him down for the time being, and now escape. The score now 2-2. But again, remember Agnich with almost 2 minutes of riding time.
Yeah, that's a big 1 minute and 54 seconds for the senior, but credit the sophomore there. That's a tough position, being just beaten down for the first minute in the second period. Late takedown in period number one, for him to escape that and now get some momentum swung his way. That's a big deal. But to go back to your coffee thing, I remember Jim Miller talking to one of my classes the other day. Coach Keller certainly, tell you what, Tyler, whatever coffee they're drinking, I think I might want a cup or two of that. They're pretty exciting guys to be around.
Yeah, very exciting and very successful too. And both these guys on their feet again as Rosenberg misses on a shot. Haven't seen these guys both up for very much, as Agnich has been in control on top for most of this match. Now 10 seconds remaining in this second period. And it looks like nothing will happen as we go into the third. The two kind of hand fighting. And 2-2, we go into the third.
When you mentioned some coaching staff. How about Oostendorp, John, for the Cohawks? Wrestled at the University of Iowa. A big match for them tonight. Hawkeyes against the Golden Gophers up in Minnesota. But, he wrestled for the coach, Dan Gable, graduated in 1993. So he's a guy that's been around wrestling really his entire career, and that's why he's had a lot of success in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. He's been around success, and he's carried that over to this program and has been successful as a coach now as well.
And speaking of how dominant, Wartburg has been in the Iowa Conference, Oostendorp being a two-time IIAC Coach of the Year, 2009 NWCA National Coach of the Year, leading the Cohawks to a second-place finish in 2008, and as dominant as the Knights have been. We'll talk about Augsburg later in the broadcast, but if you can get top 2 and beat out either Wartburg or Augsburg, another team out of the Minnesota area up in the Twin Cities, I think you're doing some things in the right direction.
Absolutely. Just a little over a minute here. Now as Agnich gets a single leg takedown, then just kind of goes to both of those shin ankle areas and gets him to fall to the ground. Up 5-2. Also now surpassing 2 minutes of riding time. Just 50 seconds remaining. Rosenberg's got to go now if he wants to go, and he gets an escape there and goes charging right back at him.
Well, the aggressive play by both these guys. Credit the pick there by the senior. Agnich just going right at him, but really, it's tough after you get almost the wind knocked out of you like that to come back, and Rosenberg not only doing that, but trying to take a pick himself toward the edge of the mat.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's not give up on Rosenberg. As if you saw that game against Buena Vista and Wartburg for the men's basketball game, I believe it was last Saturday, the men's basketball team was down by, I think, 17 at one point and almost came back and won that game. So Rosenberg still about 15 seconds of time to get something going here. Agnich, good sprawl there. And again, a missed shot, not converted. Agnich doing a good job just backing away, knowing he has, a stall call to give. And that's the way this one will end. Good sportsmanship there by Rosenberg and Agnich. As you see, they shake hands before they even have to shake hands. With the extra riding time point, Agnich takes that victory 6-3.
Yeah, add that last point, and that gives the Knights, again, the lead. Looking at the coaching staff of the Cohawks, just kind of, a sigh of disgust after that. They know their sophomore so close at that point, and rightfully so. And that's got to be tough, always coming on the road. I think you tell your team, first off and foremost, let's get that first win. Let's try to take it to them, and you don't get that. Now the question is, how do they respond, especially now with Connor Campo being ranked 6th in the nation.
And as you mentioned, Connor Campo, 6th in the nation, out there on the mat up against the freshman, Mike Gusserson.
Two young guys going at it. And Campo really, we again, consistently mentioned kind of his unorthodox wrestling style, if you will. He kind of starts in that low stance, that crouch stance, sometimes almost crawling, and you see him take advantage of Gusserson here. Just gets around those legs so quick, and that's really his game. It's all about speed.
Yeah, good job by him being relentless there, not giving up. And, credit to Gusserson as well, squirming out of there a couple times. But Campo ends up on top. Campo's a guy who I believe was at a 17-match win streak before he lost to Evan Ober a couple weeks ago from Luther. And since then, he's responded very well. He's a guy who's, willing to get in that wrestling room and do what it takes to get back to his winning ways, and he's done just that. Now up 2-0 with 2 minutes remaining in this first.
Well, I think that has to do with that kind of win the next one mentality. Campo, a guy that's not really going to get shaken up by a loss like that, whether he's ranked ahead of a guy or behind. They don't really pay attention a whole lot to the rankings here at Wartburg, and for Co, I should say that as well. As much as these guys wrestle, they know every time they go out, they have the opportunity to win, and if they make a slip up like that Luther match, it could go the other way.
And it's just kind of the mindset to have of any athlete, regardless what sport you're in, is that you're going to go out and you're going to compete and you're going to have the opportunity to win. So just having that right mindset, the mental frame, is a huge part. Looking back at that 125-pound matchup, that's Jake Agnich's 19th victory of the season.
Yeah, that's a big one for the senior. Again, a big leader for this squad on senior night. It's got to mean a whole lot to the kid from Ames. Talk about mental strength. How about the physical strength of Campo? Just throwing him to the ground that time, and now very close.
Just lifts him up and kind of throws him over, gets him on his back. Not on there long enough to get any back points, or I believe anyways. Might have gotten 2. But Gusserson, regardless, a reversal. Now out of bounds. Kind of a sequence of events there. I didn't think that he had gotten back points, but scoreboard shows it's 4-2.
I think the official might have given him 2, but it happened so quickly. I think Gusserson, the freshman, that's a heads-up move. Great awareness by the youngster to quickly scramble out of that in almost a, could end the match scenario, and he spins around.
And now Campo getting close to being, was on his back, getting close to being in too bad of a position here. He does a good job getting back to his belly, and he tries to get back to his base.
And some big wins for both these guys throughout the year as well. We've talked about Campo and how dominant he's been in the Iowa Conference, but Gustafson, it's so tough for a freshman to come into this league and try to perform at any level, but especially in the Iowa Conference.
And now another reversal, this time for Campo. As you can see, that coaching staff telling him to kind of try to pull him back in, stay inside that circle as the first period comes to an end. Score 6-2 in favor of Campo. He did have over a minute of riding time, but Gustafson being on top took some of that away. Campo now at 47 seconds.
Gustafson, native of Antioch, Iowa, and a couple of pins on the year, 11-16 record overall. But, a lot of people don't realize they beat that Wisconsin lacrosse team early on in the year, and that's the same team that narrowly edged out the Knights early on in the year to give them that one loss. That's the only blemish on Wartburg's scorecard this season, but Coach wrestled them very tough, and credit Gustafson had a pin in that one, and that really, decided it. You win by 6. Gustafson gets a pin at 5:39 in that match. That's a big contribution at a young age.
Absolutely. And early on, the first 30 seconds of this second period, Campo gets a quick escape, and then a nice takedown by Gustafson. 7-4 the score. And again, he's just kind of ticking away at that riding time, eliminating what Campo had. Looking to add some riding time to his name.
Oh, that's got to be big. And you see Gustafson taking kind of some physical shots here. Not really to, impede anything on Campo, but more so just to try to take some drive out of him. A good shove with his right arm kind of into the, the upper part of Campo there. And then another arm shot trying to get that left arm knocked loose by Campo. And that's just, a balance war and just trying to take something out of the other guy. So you head into the third period in the last minute here in the second period with some momentum.
And a stalemate called, brings him back to the middle. And you mentioned all those shots he's kind of putting on Campo's body. It looks like he's got a heating pad on his right shoulder, so you got to wonder if that's affecting him in a significant way.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think the coaching staff really, put a whole lot of emphasis on that right shoulder of Campo. You see him just digging it in there. It doesn't look like it's causing too much discomfort, but I think more so just kind of one of those, internal things, not necessarily a big injury type deal for this young kid.
And you saw a little bit ago, Gustafson couldn't convert on a move to try to get Campo to his back. Instead, it's a reversal for Campo. He's now trying to tick up that riding time for him. 15 seconds remaining in this second period. Doing a good job keeping him on his belly as now Gustafson gets up to his base with little time remaining. Campo does a good job hanging on for the time being. And the co-bench signals to Mike Gustafson to start on bottom. See if he can get a quick escape here. Nice explosion off the whistle here as Campo does a good job eliminating the first part. And now a reversal for Gustafson. I believe the fourth reversal, each of these guys having 2 to their name here. And I guess 2 points is better than 1, so Gustafson, instead of getting the escape, goes to the reversal. And now looking to let Campo up, trying to do some work on his feet. Quick shot, nothing doing. Good sprawl by Campo. And Campo close to a takedown. And we settle things down for a little bit here. Out of bounds and back to the center.
That's a big answer for Gustafson, especially, those reversals right away. It's so tough to get taken down and then just to have, the aptitude physically to come back and try to get a reversal like that. And there he goes again, taking him down. He's going to push him off and try to get some more here. But that's big for the freshman. That's just great wrestling IQ.
Now gets in on a single leg here. A little push-pull action. Campo doing a good job hanging onto those feet. Starting to get a little bit louder here for this 133-pound match as the two just rolling around. And now 2 for Campo as the Knights section explodes in applause.
That's a huge takedown for Campo right there, and with so much going against him. Gustafson just pushing the envelope right there. And, Campo's got to maintain his ground. He knows just because he's gotten, he's lost a few of these position moves, you can't really get down on yourself. And Gustafson maybe a little bit too aggressive on that last pick.
Yeah, and he may be a little too aggressive, but at the same time does have to have a lot of aggression going to try to get, a takedown. Down 13-8, 36 seconds remaining. And now a caution here. It looks like this one on Campo. Just reacting a little bit before that whistle.
Well, a 5-point lead, it seems insurmountable with about 30 seconds left. But, you give a guy an escape like that. Gustafson more so earning it. And then, again, as aggressive as he has been, we've talked about, look for him to take a few shots here late.
And he almost just gets too deep on his shots, which is weird to say and hard to believe. But now they're in a kind of unorthodox position here as Campo probably just trying to hold on here and let this clock run out.
He's holding on to that back shoelace of Gustafson there. That's tough to do in a bad situation, then closes out the match with an exclamation point. Great job by both guys.
Nice takedown by Campo. The final score, 15-9. No riding time will be in effect here. And Campo, he's a guy who's so successful. We mentioned how good he was to start the year. And not that had a bad streak, but he probably expects more out of himself. Better victory than that. But nonetheless, a victory for him.
Well, again, give credit to both guys. The freshman Gustafson coming in here, a lot to prove tonight, and not necessarily the X on his shoulder that Campo has, being that ranked wrestler, and especially here at home. So you got to give him some guts going out there. A lot of great scoring moves there with a 15-9 score.
Now Eric Clark wrestling here up against Luke Kramer. Two tie up early, and Kramer gets in on a leg. And now both of them just kind of holding on to the other's leg. Fighting, trying to get their hips up and get the first takedown of this match.
Always fun to see a lot of these guys from their hometowns. Kramer from Cedar Rapids wrestled for Kennedy, the Wildcats, and that's obviously a hotbed for recruiting for the Cohawks. But so fun to see a lot of these Knights out-of-staters come in. But at this weight class for the Knights, it's just great to see them perform.
Yeah, Clark and Kaz Ono both at the 141-pound weight. Both freshmen have done a good job this year. I mentioned Ono was ranked, I believe, as high as 8 at one point. And, shame on me for not realizing that Eric Clark is tied for a team best in 21 wins.
Yeah, he's really proven himself. Freshman from Davenport Assumption, a great program down there in the Quad Cities. Also the Knights, and he's got some legacy out there on the bench as well. Lanyon Williams, national champ here at Wartburg, one of those first-year assistant coaches out there helping him along. Obviously, you'd assume he helped with that recruiting process, but this is a guy that really talks the talk, but he walks the walk too. A guy that's week in and week out, he's really excited about this program, and for a freshman, it's so fun to see a lot of those young guys bought into it.
And now rolls him over to his back. He's going to get 2 back points before they go out of bounds. Good job by him. Yeah, just over a minute left. You can see the score 4-0 as he now surpasses a minute of riding time. So unless Kramer can do something about that, still plenty of match to go, but unless he can do something about that, Clark will add an extra point. Nothing too much going here as he breaks him back down. And looking to get the wrist here. Legs slightly tangled up. And almost caught in a bad position as Kramer just grabbed the back of the head of Clark and almost flipped him over. Clark does a good job only allowing 1 point.
Well, this really is, he's had some opportunities. He's got a lot of wins, but you look at Clark overall, this is his third varsity duel of his collegiate career, or his 5th varsity duel, but that goes back to the Iowa Conference duels where he was just, very young in that as well. His 2nd collegiate of his career this past weekend. had a really tough time, though. You look at Dubuque, although the Knights won 34-4, Clark getting beaten a major decision 13-2 against Brian Travis of UD. Obviously, Travis ranked 9th in the country, but Clark is, one of those guys that's seen kind of his ups and downs as well coming into tonight.
And rewind it back to 133 pounds as Clark nearing an escape. Campo recorded his 20th win of the season. He is second on the team in wins, I believe, only behind the heavyweight Ben Nagel.
Kramer, a guy a lot to prove. He kind of spins around here. You're going to see him use a lot of that upper body strength against some of these wrestlers. But, he comes in losing 2 in a row, lost to Luther in that duel as Co dropped a heartbreaker of 2016. But a couple of those winning efforts, even by this team, he's been on the bottom end of that. And, that can get really frustrating for guys as the rest of your team kind of excels and you're struggling. And now he's struggling on his back here.
Fantastic job by Clark to, first off, get that takedown by just kind of pinning his leg up into Clark, keeping him in bounds, keeping that left foot in, you can see, and gets 3 back points as well. Fantastic sequence for Clark there.
Boy, that's about as close as it gets before they whistle the fall on that. That's a tremendous move and good poise as well on the bottom side there by Luke Kramer, but the freshman coming in, you see him, he almost had him the first time on his back, that left shoulder blade, and then he wraps around him again, goes up to his forehead and just tries to push him back to the mat. Takes a lot of strength to bring a guy back over to the mat, and especially near the edge of the circle right there. That's a great job by this young freshman.
And now is Kramer on his stomach. Clark doing a good job keeping him down. Trying to go to a tilt to get some back points, not going to a similar move he went to in that first period. If you remember, getting back points near the edge of that circle. And there he goes, getting some more back points. Guess you can just kind of say that's his go-to move.
I think so tonight. It seems like everything going right for this young man. And, for Kramer, not a lot going right. It's tough to see him, right now locked up against those hands and to try to steal back any of this against Clark, what has been a dominating effort. If he can just try to get an escape here, can try to get his head back right.
Yeah, and he's at 2 minutes and 26 seconds of riding time as well. The score right now, 11-1 as we head into the third period.
Well, and obviously now entering that final period, no way that riding time can be erased, so that much more of a mountain to climb here for Kramer.
And you see Clark there. Whistle blows the end of the second period. He tells the official he wants both wrestlers up, and he puts his foot right on that line, and that's him listening to Coach Keller saying you should be ready to go at all times, and credit to him for just, being ready to go. It's just a great thing to see, a freshman, sometimes you can see him come in and be immature. A lot of the times freshmen at the junior varsity level, but Clark doing a good job. This, again, his 5th varsity duel, trying to make a name for himself here.
I think, you make a great point. I think it has to do, one, with the head coaches, especially Keller. Jim Miller's always around here tonight. Really just shaping these young men into the individuals they see them to be. But another guy on his feet right there in the orange at the top corner of your screen, again, Landon Williams, a guy from your high school. If you kind of have that, sort of brother figure to you when you come in your first year, it's a lot more, it's a lot easier for a guy to transition not only to his academics and whatnot, but to really understand a program and how it works. And I think Clark is, again, just bought into this entire black and orange ordeal that Keller has been putting on the last few years, and you can see it by his effort tonight.
Yeah, you make a great point there, throughout everything you said. And could be Landon Williams, could be a kind of a model for Clark, like you mentioned, and just kind of show him how things go around here, how they go, how things work with this wrestling program, and like you said, being able to balance being a student athlete as well. The score 13-2 in favor of Clark as they go out of bounds. 23 seconds remaining in this third period.
Well, for Kramer now, going to drop his last 3 in a row, and he'll fall to 6-13 on the season. But again, you got to credit these co-guys fighting at it, going against him. And there's 3 or 4 times in this match where Kramer could have just given up and taken the pin, as we see another big point here by Clark. Boy, he wants to get that tech fall. You can see his effort. But for a guy like Kramer, important to just keep that spirit alive as you continue to move on the next couple of weeks.
And he ends up with 3 minutes and 35 seconds of riding time just to kind of add to his dominance of this match. The final score is 16-2.
And that's that first major decision. And, although we could talk about Agnich kind of being that leadoff guy, if you want to keep the baseball references, it's big for that kind of guy third in the order, so to speak. A big power hitter, and, that's kind of what you expect. A great match that time, but Clark took it to him, and that just adds to the rest of these guys coming in, that domino effect. And now we see Kenny Martin come in. We'll see if the sophomore can continue to keep up the pace.
And now Kenny Martin, the highest-ranked wrestler for this Wartburg team at number 2, as he gets in on the upper body of Josh Donkel. And a takedown for him early on. He looks to go to work and just continue how he's been wrestling throughout this whole year. Martin allows him to escape, and now they tie back up.
Donkel, much like Kramer, being a junior, he's an out-of-state guy, Greeley, Colorado, but Donkel losing his last 3 coming into tonight. And that can always, benefit the other wrestler when you see a guy has kind of had some struggles coming into a meet. But, Martin, again, is going to attack. Another big push down to the mat there for another 2 for the number 2 wrestler in Martin. But for a guy like Donkel, again, it's important, despite losing that many. We can praise the Wartburg coaching staff, but I think this co-coaching staff, again, a lot of the guys coming into tonight after that loss against Luther and some difficulties in that Iowa Conference dual matchup, it's always important to come in here to Levick with kind of a fresh mindset.
Yeah, we mentioned, kind of in the pregame as well, you should always expect to win. You should go out on that mat and have the confidence that you're going to do what you can to come away with a victory, and that's although Co down 10-0 early, they've got some good wrestlers here who had beaten Wartburg wrestlers coming up here in this lineup. So these guys throughout the rest of the lineup need to have confidence throughout.
Well, Donkel, one of those guys, he didn't wrestle the first time that the Knights and Co-Hawks met at the NWCA duels, or the Desert duels, excuse me. But a guy who's certainly seen his success this year, 15-15, right at 500, but one of the best overall career records this Co-Hawks team has to offer, 54-50, and he's won a bundle of these really outside of the conference to kind of, again, show that staple here in the Midwest.
4-2 the score with a minute remaining in this first period. And I mentioned Campo getting his 20th win. That was now Clark's 22nd win of the year. Now a team best. Ben Nagel will wrestle later tonight, and he will also go for number 22. Martin in on the single leg, trying to work with it. Donkel in has the whizzer in. Now Martin goes to a cradle while they're standing. He gets him to his back, and he's flat on his back. Martin with the pin.
Boy, this crowd erupting after that.
And it was crazy, too. Martin just kind of had his leg up in the air and was, kind of lollygagging in a way, just kind of setting him up for that. And he does a good job attacking near the head and getting that cradle secured and getting him to his back. And you can see Donkel, walking off the mat in frustration because he was certainly in that match.
Oh, no question.
The score was 4-2, and he gets kind of caught in a bad position, and he gets pinned.
Oh, you see his body language. He's frustrated, and rightfully so. I think that's a move, coming into tonight. I think he prepares for it. You see him get up immediately after that. Credit here for, right away recognizing he made a mistake, but it was a fatal one and the only one right there. And you made a good point as well. Martin just kind of biding his time there and just coming with that forearm, powering down, and not only able to bring him to the mat, but finish it off as well. That's a big move and a big-time pin for Kenny Martin.
And now the 7th-ranked junior, Drew Wagenhofer, goes up against Ryan Donovan. And Donovan, another guy we mentioned for this co-team, a couple out-of-staters. Donovan from California.
Yeah, Alta Loma, California, 2-9 on the year. Here at 165, he's lost 5 coming into tonight. So he's definitely been struggling. One of those guys, again, that the coaches at Co have really kind of switched in and out of the lineup to see how he's going to fit. And really in conference, that's been his struggles. But he's got some bright moments. He's got 4 pins on the season. So just like, Martin, and if you watch the Iowa Conference duels, guys that are capable of pins, although his overall record may not be, very popular, he's got some great finishing moves on the mat.
And unfortunately for him, his opportunity comes up against Drew Wagenhofer, a great wrestler for the Knights.
2 out-of-state guys. Wagenhofer, he's battled some injury throughout his career, but a guy from out east, New Jersey, much like the first guy for the Cohawks, Rosenberg. It'd be interesting to see if those 2 guys ever, met up in the state of New Jersey out there. But Wagenhofer is a guy, much like Rosenberg, who's proved his way now into that starting lineup.
Now Wagenhofer looking for some offense on top. 1:20 remaining in the first period.
Kind of been at that 157 mark for basically his entire career. How about a 53-20 record for Wagenhofer, and pins throughout his career? He's had a bundle of them in the last few years. Definitely a guy who knows how to finish himself. Actually was the runner-up at the Concordia Open last year. He won it this year, so he's got some improvement. In his first year back in 11-12, took sixth at the NCAA championship. So, a New Jersey State champ his senior year, just a guy who knows how to get the job done.
And there he went to a move that Clark had went to. He was unsuccessful with that. And then another attempt at getting Donovan to his back. Donovan, good job fighting to stay. Now up to his base. And Wagenhofer just shucks him out of the circle to get a fresh start back at the middle.
Much like the Knights, too, I'm seeing a few guys that wrestled for the Cohawks last year on their kind of bench. Eric Clark, one of those guys, I think he was ranked number 4 in the country for Co a year ago on their sideline. Great to see the tradition by both these schools carry through to, again, the coaching staffs.
15 seconds remaining in the first period. And need to mention Wagenhofer nearing the 2-minute mark in riding time. He got an early takedown and has been doing a good job. But also credit to Donovan not allowing any back points to be called against him.
Well, Clark, one of those guys a year ago for Co that kind of provided that spark plug at needed times, and that's what Co I think has been lacking tonight. Really a guy that just comes through and whatever the score right away, they've really been missing that one guy who might get a big takedown moment. You've seen a lot of cheering by the Knights, obviously to the effect of a big pin by Martin, but the Cohawk fans just anxiously awaiting for one of these good shots taken by a Cohawk on the mat.
And Wagenhofer tries to roll out of it. Nearly gets himself in a bad position. And out of bounds. Fresh start in the middle here. As you can see, Donovan looking over to his sideline, getting coached up.
Just like the last match, this one definitely in reach for Donovan, as it was for Donkel just before this. But the sophomore, he's doing a great job there controlling the hands and really the upper part of Wagenhofer. It's going to be big the first couple of seconds. Always tough for a guy during an escape, and you see why as Wagenhofer gets out of a jam.
Yeah, right on cue, as you mentioned, it being tough to start off the whistles. The guy on bottom gets the opportunity to get a good jump. And now a reversal, for Wagenhofer, as he will add on to that riding time. He's already surpassed a minute. The score 4-0 with just over a minute remaining in the second period.
Just heard the final as well from Minneapolis. Looks like the Hawkeyes took care of business. Another number 1 in the state, certainly at the Division I level, 23-12 over the Golden Gophers tonight.
And rumor has it there was kind of some controversy in overtime in the Mike Evans match.
Yeah.
Said he got a takedown but was basically put to his back right after. So they went back to the camera and reviewed it, and Evans came away with the victory.
Fortunately, we haven't had any of those type of scenarios tonight, but we've seen some overtimes between a few of these teams in their meets past.
And Wagenhofer doing a good job not allowing him to get an escape. He's been on top for almost 3 minutes now and hasn't allowed really any type of movement by Donovan. Donovan, just kind of struggling to get to his base.
That's big for Wagenhofer. It's, so much talk on this team, 7 full minutes, each period, wrestle it to the fullest, and I think that's exactly what Wagenhofer embodying right now. That entire second period, not allowing just a single move by his opponent. If you can control that dominantly, again, it's just going to take so much out of your opponent physically that, now really starting off in this period, Donovan's going to have to make some shots, but Wagenhofer seems to be a little more light on his feet and have a little more energy.
Yeah, and that's why you see Donovan choosing both wrestlers to be up here rather than, the usual picking bottom, trying to get a quick escape. He hasn't been able to do so in 2 minutes and 58 seconds of Wagenhofer being on top, so he tries to see what he can do from his feet. As Wagenhofer nearly in on a single leg.
Donovan's so close to just trying to turn that corner. You see him working on that right shoulder of Wagenhofer, and he's just going to try to skip in, but Wagenhofer's so dominant down low with his balance and footing, he's just going to continue to drive.
And a takedown for Wagenhofer as he looks to just push him out of bounds. Now he's actually, you can see from the Wartburg bench, asking for some back points here as he's doing a good job keeping his feet in. Now he goes out of bounds. And it looked like Wagenhofer was just trying to get him out of bounds, and it ended up Donovan started kind of rolling over to his back, getting his shoulders on the mat, and it looks like it's going to be 2 back points for Wagenhofer there.
One, interesting in that position, his eyes obviously looking down back toward the edge of the circle, so he's just kind of waiting for that whistle almost in a sense, wrestling hard, but, when is it going to be called out of bounds? And kind of at the wrong time as Wagenhofer gets another 2.
And a little bit ago we saw Andrew Steyer actually walk past us, so we're going to go with the assumption that Nick Michael will take the mat for 165 pounds coming up here, as it looks like he is warming up.
And Sawera, a guy we've talked about, he's obviously getting his blood flowing as well. 20 seconds left for Wagenhofer in this one, and this is a dominating effort by the junior. 8-0 right now, riding time in his favor, and how about that, approaching 4 minutes? It'll be +4. That's about as dominant as it gets for a junior.
Yeah, just an incredible job. And again, Donovan just struggling on bottom. As the clock hits 0 and the buzzer sounds, the final score 9-0 with that riding time added on. And just an overall dominating fashion by Wagenhofer. And again, you mentioned Donovan, a guy who's been in and out of the lineup. It's tough for him to come in and try to get a victory up against Wagenhofer.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now dropping his last 6, though, but for Wagenhofer, another big win for him and a major decision.
And again, Nick Michael on the mat instead of Andrew Steyer, up against Farai Sawera. So a match to watch tonight for us. Sawera, ranked 2nd in the nation at 165 pounds, and he's done a good job throughout this year. Michael trying to pull off the upset.
Well, Nick's got a great, career overall start, a junior from Holy Cross down in Louisiana, 4-time Louisiana state champion. So a guy, you look at him tonight, not being ranked, but, as decorated a wrestler as he has been, this one should be very exciting. Tied for 3rd at the Simpson Invite freshman year, won the Cornell Matman Invite, this season. So a guy, again, used to improving as the season goes along.
And Sawera going right to work with an early takedown. Did a good job circling, getting his body in position to be inside of that circle, then later going to tripping him and getting his 2 points there. So just good job having awareness, knowing where you're at on the mat.
Just, mentioning the last one, we were waiting for that spark plug, and finally the Cohacks, the fan section here a little bit to cheer about us. Sawera gets that early takedown, starts to get that momentum early in a match, and now it's tough now for Michael to try to combat against that and get an escape here to end the first period.
And the Wartburg coaches, which again we've mentioned before, they expect Nick Michael to go win this match. Who cares that he's a second ranked at 165 pounds? He might have all these accomplishments and awards, but again, I don't know if you mentioned, but he was named the Iowa Conference Athlete of the Week. Go out there and, go get us a victory, and that's the mindset that this Wartburg team has.
Both these guys so physical, and Michael's going to show that tonight. But Sawera, just to give Wartburg fans a little bit of his accolades as well, 19-1 on the season, just one single loss. He's got 18 pins for his career, approaching double digits this season. A guy who likes to get things done in a hurry. We saw Kenny Martin with a pin in the first. Sawera is certainly capable of that. Tyler coming into tonight, winning his last 14 in a row.
Yeah, he's obviously just, on a nice little win streak there. So Michael going to have a, not necessarily a tough time, but a tough task for him to get a victory here. Score 2-1 with just under a minute remaining.
Well, Sawera, as dominant as he has been, a guy who is certainly keeping his eyes open, not only for regional wrestling, but high hopes in nationals as well. A team that, we mentioned 2008 runner-up nationally, being the number 2 squad in the nation. And they've got their sights set on some of those, big-time opportunities once again. And Sawera, a guy who's capable of kind of leading them as they go to nationals.
And the two are tied up here with 30 seconds remaining in this first period. Sawera trying to get inside position as Michael doing his best to hold his own here. Both big-bodied guys, big, good statures at this 165 pounds.
Two guys who really come at that weight, as close as they can get, and guys that really take the time in the offseason to not only work on the strength, we know their physical strength, but work on their technique, and I think that's really the edge that Sawera has had against a lot of his opponents really all season has really been that wrestling technique and how dominant he's been up front with his upper body.
And now Michael almost gets himself on his back as Sawera gets a quick takedown right before the buzzer sounds. And you mentioned the physical part and the technique part. A wrestler won't be all that great if he's just big and strong. You've got to have technique, and you've got to know, okay, if I can't do this move, I got to go to this move. And if that works, what's your next thing you're going to do from there? Technique is a huge part of wrestling, way more than strength is.
Yeah, it certainly gets overlooked, I think, as well. And, it's one step to the next, as you've mentioned. And for Sawera, I think it's about awareness as well. 10 seconds or less in that second period, or in the first period, for him to have the awareness to get that takedown for 2 points. That's big.
And taking a break from this match quick as Sawera gets an escape. That was Wagenhofer's 19th win of the season.
That's great to see, too. A lot of these Wartburg guys, we already saw a few of them hit that 20 win mark. I think Campo getting that earlier in this match tonight. But, it seems like when one guy does, a good thing for this team, for the Knights, gets a victory, it seems like another guy going to follow suit right after his teammate.
And back to the center as Sawera can't convert on a takedown. Michael, good job getting his body in the right position to not allow it. Score 5-1 in favor of Sawera. We haven't seen that very often tonight, maybe if at all, where the Cohawk wrestler was in the lead.
Both these guys kind of feeling each other out, and you'll see that a lot with Michael just trying to study his man and make a move on him as they clasp wrists at the front.
And those guys are tied up here. Michael looking to get a takedown here before we enter the third period. Now 30 seconds remaining in the second. And if you can see that coaching staff, you can see him going, hey, you got to go right now. Go get a takedown right off this whistle. So 27 seconds remaining here as Michael trying to get a quick takedown here.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a really good shot yet. He's been on his back a whole lot tonight, and there's another example. Just got kind of stepped on there, and not that Sawera really meaning to step on it, but that's just tough positioning, losing his balance, and then just, a very capitalizing effort by the junior to take on Michael there.
Yeah, and Tough kind of losing his balance there, and Sawera just kind of shucks him over and pounces on top of him. He gets a takedown. Heading into the third period, the score is 7-1 in favor of Sawera, and now the Cohawks fans, again, like you mentioned earlier, having a little something to cheer about, down 20-0.
Will be big for Sawera as well to try to extend this lead. He's only got 50 seconds of riding time, and that's because Michael's, played that chess match with him up front. Now he'll go down, needs to get that escape early and then try to take some aggressive shots here without losing that balance down low.
And a quick explosion by Michael, but Sawera goes to that ankle and doesn't allow him to stand up. And now Michael on his belly.
Just always so tough, especially, a guy with the strength like Sawera as well, right after the whistle to try to just explode out of your position. That's been a key theme for us tonight, using that out of that down position. And for a guy like Michael, if you can't initially get that, you've got to try and come up. Credit him as he does that and just kind of takes off the seatbelt, so to speak, with Sawera kind of slamming him down, taking away that much more time to try to make a comeback effort.
And that comeback effort will need to be had in next minute and 17 seconds. As not that Michael's wrestled poorly by any means, just Sawera has been in control throughout the whole match. As they tie up, both of them kind of fighting for inside position, trying to set up their move. Quick little fake here by Sawera. And it looks like we have stalling on Michael. And we'll get a point for Sawera, I believe.
Yeah, you see the coaching staff for the night say, let's go. Let's try to make a move here. And, arguably called by the official there, but Michael's got to make some aggressive moves here in 38 seconds.
The score 8-2 with 30 seconds in the third period. And not to write off Michael here with short time remaining, but looking ahead to the next match, another match to watch. 5th-ranked Brandon Welter is getting ready to go up against Ryan Harrington. And Sawera is still 7 seconds left, trying to get a major decision to his name. He's got a point of riding time coming up here in 6 seconds as he's going for a takedown. But he cannot complete that task. The final score 9-2. So just a regular win and a decision by Sawera, but does a good job getting the Cohawks on the board, 20-3.
Big time performance there by the junior. Sawera, a guy heavily ranked. Michael, he's getting a talking to by his coaching staff now, and they're so positive with a lot of the young guys down there. Not necessarily what did you do wrong, but what can we try to fix for the next time out. But Sawera, a guy he's been answering that question since really the opening weeks of this season. What can he do to improve upon himself? A big victory there, and now 15 straight for Sawera and the Cohawks at that weight class.
And again, Brandon Welter, the 5th rank, going up against the 4th ranked Ryan Harrington. And I mentioned earlier, Harrington beat Welter earlier this year by a score of 3-2. So a very, fingernail performance by both these guys, fingernail biting performance.
Yeah, it'll be another physical battle. Both guys tied up, and it's one of those cases where both guys know each other very well on the mat. Both guys kind of pick each other here. A tough move down low. Harrington almost had him, but another out-of-state guy. Harrington, another New Jersey man from out east, and we know Welter just about 30 minutes away from Don Bosco. Both guys know each other well. They know those moves, and it'll be exciting.
And Welter does a good job there, as Harrington was pretty deep in on that shot. Welter did a good job sprawling. It was a little late, but not allowing him to get a takedown.
I think that's the experience by the senior. He's been the receptor, I should say, of some very difficult shots on the year, and we've seen his highs and lows as well as a lot of the black and orange wrestlers. But Welter staving off that shot right there. That's big in the first period to not get down early. Should mention as well, Harrington, according to Coe's statistics, wrestled 12 matches for the Cohawks. He's won all 12 this season.
So, maybe hasn't been in every match. I guess can't really argue for the reasoning behind that. Maybe he's battled some injuries, or maybe the coaching staff has just gone to someone else. But 12 victories and 12 times stepping out on that mat, you got to think that, obviously is a confidence booster to him.
Oh, yeah, it's huge. And, he's not one of those wrestlers, looking at this coaching staff and really his poise coming out of the mat. He's not a guy that's going to worry about, hey, when am I going to drop that first one? It's more so, again, much like the Wartburg mentality, go ahead and win the next one. 12-0, just kind of erase that record every time he steps onto the mat, and you're going to see that as he takes on Welter tonight. And, the senior for the night's a little bit more height advantage. You're going to see Harrington a little bit more stocky, and that kind of aids him, but Welter's kind of got that, that length up top, and that really aids in wrestling. But if you could have that strong base like Harrington, it's kind of, a David versus Goliath-esque match down there.
Yeah, not that Welter is a scrawny guy by any means, but like you mentioned, just a little bit more lengthy and lanky than is his opponent, Harrington. And a good job by these two. Sorry to interrupt you there. 20 seconds remaining in this first period and no points for either guy. It's just been a battle early on.
I was going to say, that's why you see it so stalemate right now. A good shot taken by Welter near that right leg of Harrington, but again, staving it off. And that's going to benefit Welter tonight if he can use that length, and really if Harrington can utilize that short, stocky speed down low.
Now Welter trying to get his hips up. Nothing doing yet. His time right before the buzzer. Welter gets 2 points. As you could hear the whole coaching staff and everybody on the bench yelling too, as well as some fans piping in. And he gets that takedown right before the buzzer, and that draws a big applause.
Boy, that is a buzzer beater if I've ever seen one. Right at 1 second left, the coaching staff asking the scoring table there, hey, was that officially counted? The official on the mat saying, yeah, that too, right at the buzzer sounded. So the coaching staff for the night screaming for that one, but credit Welter for hanging on in there and just squeezing that out in the nick of time.
And we mentioned Welter a little bit earlier. Went to Don Bosco, a graduate from there. So now he comes to Wartburg. His brother was a national champion last year. He's been around success his whole life. The Don Bosco program just obviously so good over the past, how many years. Basically, historically, throughout their whole existence has been good at wrestling. And now here at Wartburg, obviously, we know what they've done. So just been around the success for so long. Two to 1 the score with a minute and a little bit of change in the second period.
You look at guys like Drew Wagenhofer from New Jersey, Rosenberg at 125 for the Cohawks. A lot of success, and Harrington, a guy much like that. 41-0 in his 2011 campaign at 160 pounds in New Jersey, and was a state champ that year. So a guy that not only knows success, but how to be perfect on a year.
And now Welter and Harrington nearing the circle out of bounds here. Welter keeping that foot in, trying to bring him back in. Harrington took a shot on that single leg. Welter did a good job sprawling and, just swinging around, getting to that leg. Didn't quite get the takedown. Did a good job, got really close. And, again, we mentioned that loss earlier in the year from Welter. He's got to have kind of a chip on his shoulder, really trying to get this victory here against Harrington.
I think what impresses me about both these guys, too, they've kind of grown into their body types. Welter, obviously, not as lengthy as he was at the beginning of his Wartburg campaign, and Harrington, a guy, again, a state champ at 160 in New Jersey, and then bump up to 170 his senior year to win a state title, and now back up a little bit even more at 174 and trying to be just as dominant.
Now some good activity going on as Harrington has Welter up, and the coaching staff for Co asked him to count those back points, and Welter gets around, avoids anything, has the clock, runs out. So the end of the first, the end of the second, where we get some action, except unfortunately for Harrington, he doesn't get any points there at the end like Welter did earlier. Welter chooses bottom, up 2-1.
That's a big time move, and maybe expect here a quick release by Welter to get out of it possibly, but that's big. You're going to see here, obviously, Harrington try to get some of those riding time point if he could do so, but that's very close at the end of that one. Co screaming to see if that was back points at the end of the second period. Now two really big questionable scoring plays at the end of the first and second, and are really our first taste of a very enticing matchup going into the third period. But I think, the official not calling out there, Welter maybe by an inch or so, just didn't have those shoulder blades on the mat as Harrington had him in a tough position backwards.
And like you mentioned, kind of one of the closer matches we've seen tonight. Wartburg up 20-3 and score-wise as Welter gets an escape to give himself a 2-point cushion. Now Harrington trying to get a takedown with 1 minute and 30 seconds and maybe flip him over to his back to take that lead. Riding time in no effect, 12 seconds in favor of Welter, I believe.
Well, and with that in no effect, it's going to have to be a shot here by the sophomore against the senior. And, this is where that length by Welter really plays into effect. A shot taken at the edge of the mat. If that's still in bounds, you got to credit Harrington with that, big move. He's going to try to go pawing in left to right and try to just go in underneath. But if Welter can maintain that length and just keep those arms outstretched, you've got to give him the edge.
And Welter got called for stalling there as Harrington was just left, right on the back of his head. And now the two are tied up. Probably a little bit more comfortable position for Welter as he's in on a single leg. And nothing doing. And Harrington right back to attacking that head. Nothing yet as you hear some two chants from the stands. He was close to getting around and on top there off the Harrington shot. Couldn't do so. 39 seconds in this very close match.
Boy, that was extremely close. Much like the near back points at the end of the second period. Almost had him wrapped around that right leg. And, boy, just missing the opportunity there is Welter.
Now Welter can't really afford a stalling call. Already has one to his name. And Harrington gets close to that ankle. Can't do so. Welter takes a little peek at the clock. 15 seconds remaining. Welter up 3-1, just kind of hanging on here. You can see both benches up and at it. Hand in here takedown for Harrington here. 5 seconds remaining, so Harrington's going to basically have to shoot off the whistle. As they're back to the center here. And Welter does a good job not allowing that first shot to go. And much like that very first matchup of the year, as Harrington receives his first loss of the year. The first one being 3-2, this one being 3-1, this time in favor of Welter. And you got to think that one feels good for him.
Oh, that's a big victory and a tough way to go out as well for Harrington. Was in it the entire time. 3-1 now pushes the Knights in front. 23-3 overall, but that's just a tough display, overall in that entire matchup. And near the edge of the mat, when the whistle sounds, 5 seconds left, you're exactly right. You've got to take a shot at the whistle, and at that point, with that little time remaining, it goes to the guy in front nearly 9 out of 10 times. But credit both guys. That'll, I think, be a matchup to look at as we continue not only in the Iowa Conference, but along with regionals, as well as those guys have been wrestling, possibly could meet up in nationals.
And now we got, at 184 pounds, Devin Peterson, who's ranked 8th. Going up against Ryan Sheldon. As the arena kind of settles down a little bit after that close match. As this first minute doesn't have much going on here. The two tied up.
And for Devin being ranked, as high as he is here, a sophomore from Des Moines. It's a big-time, opportunity for him, a youngster in front of his home crowd. We know the senior night kind of atmosphere here, but if he can control things early, Sheldon, a senior himself, and he's a Cedar Rapids native, another Kennedy grad, and coming into this program, kind of power versus power here at 184.
And that win for Welter is his 16th of the year. And a little bit of a duck under attempt maybe by Peterson, but Sheldon does not allow it as they are tied up again.
Go back to that Luther matchup for the Cohawks. That's a big, victory for the Norse, and those are really the two teams that have been here in the top three with the Knights the past couple of years, and the Norse getting that win. Now both teams at a 4-1 record in the Iowa Conference. Go with that blemish against Luther, but the North's proving themselves to be in that top tier of teams, along with the Co-Hawks and the Knights here in the league. And Co now at 7-7 overall. This obviously we know a big one here, but the rest of the way as well for Co. It's going to be very important for them to just maintain some of that consistent wrestling.
Yeah, and if you're going to think of the Iowa Conference and have someone to represent it, obviously the first team you think of is Wartburg, national champs so many years, but Luther and Co. right in that mix as well.
I think that's important for them, not only for recruiting, but again for their mindset the rest of the way, that they are in one of the best, if not the best, conference in the land in Division III wrestling. And if they can take that to their name down the next couple of weeks, and certainly not to fast forward anything, even into this 184 weight class, they can prove themselves at some pretty important times.
And now Devin Peterson gets a takedown with short time remaining there as the first period comes to a close. Brendan Schott, also a wrestler at this 184 pounds. And they usually do go to Peterson, so not much of a surprise by any means. But Schott, a guy who was wrestled in these conference duels last weekend, and he got a pin in the first period in his first varsity duel. So good for him. And he's kind of getting himself in the mix, possibly wrestling at 184. But again, the Knights go to Peterson tonight.
Sheldon, a guy, though, that's seen his success as well here for the Co-Hawks the last few seasons, so to speak. But, 18-10 this season. He's got 3 pins as well. He's won 2 matches coming into tonight. And a career record of 95-38. That's astounding. A lot of wrestlers, have the goals of trying to eclipse that century mark. And I think the pace that Sheldon's going, he's making a good case to do that this year. Now at a minute riding time once again for Peterson already. Boy, the sophomore, again, looking very good. And, you got to give credit, I think, as well to Welter coming off of that tough matchup. Michael losing to Sawara. And it can be tough to try to come back, especially against a ranked guy in Harrington. And then, it can be easy for an opponent to try to steal back some momentum. And right now, we've mentioned it. Peterson just taking it right at him here. He's been in that mix with Schott, as you talked about. Levson a little bit as well. And it's important for them to keep up their wrestling styles, and you can see that right away up here in the second period, up 2-0.
Now 30 seconds remaining as Peterson nearing the 2-minute mark for riding time. So he's done a good job once he got on top, got that takedown. He's done a good job kind of staying there.
But it really reminds you of Wagenhofer. 4+ minutes of riding time, and already Peterson at 2 minutes plus here at the end of the second period. And it just seems like once you can get your body on a guy and start to control the hands, control the feet, just continue to push them down to the ground. And, it's not necessarily a stalling type deal. It's just the guy on bottom not giving up too much. But right now, Peterson just controlling too much for the guy on bottom to do anything with it. Now we'll see what he can do on top.
As Peterson goes bottom, and like you just said, see what Sheldon can do on top. And now a caution on Peterson. Just jumped the whistle a little early. So the riding time will go in favor of Peterson. He's at 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
Yeah, that's definitely important for Sheldon. You got to look at it and realize it's going to be now a 4-0 score after that escape by Peterson. It's big for him. He knows he has to take a couple of shots here with under 2 minutes to go, and to try to get some angst back into his wrestling.
And the two-hand fighting, like you mentioned, last match kind of pawing at the heads of each other.
Just tangled up top, but despite it being 4-0 and that much riding time, it's big for a guy like Sheldon to understand he's got some opportunities yet with a minute to go, and I think that's what the coaching staff for Co understands in this type of situation, much like the Wagenhofer match, but a little bit, lesser in the score category, and it being 3-0, still have to give an opportunity, and as well as this man has wrestled, the senior. He's got that experience under his belt over a guy like Devin Peterson, and that can play out into effect.
And we mentioned Welter and Harrington, seeing each other before. This is also another rematch. These two wrestled at national duels when Sheldon was ranked 6th at the time, so Sheldon has been up there in, I guess the elite level of wrestlers, so he knows how to win, and that's why Peterson only has a 2-point lead right now.
Yeah, he had a tough time with the duels, but again, winning 2 coming into tonight. 18 wins already on the season. We mentioned how good a lot of these Wartburg guys are, and they're just getting their 20th of the season. And for a guy like Sheldon, he's almost got up to that 20 mark himself. That just proves, regardless of rankings, a lot of people take those into effect, but he's been very dominant himself throughout the course of this year.
Now 15 seconds remaining. Another close match. Hasn't been quite as much action as that last one. Now Peterson in on the leg. He looks to just kind of hang on with 5 seconds remaining. And he will do so. A takedown, an escape, and some riding time to give him a 4-point victory. 4-0 the final score.
It's a big-time win, and again, the riding time playing into effect. And you got to credit Sheldon coming in and making that as close as it was, but a dominating effort nonetheless. That's one of those you look in the scoring column the day after and think, wow, just 4-0. That was a close one, although it was, but the physical aspect of it, that one controlled from the opening seconds, the opening whistle by Peterson, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points there. And now we have Gerard Roman up against Donnie Horner. And again, we mentioned Horner early on in this year. The previous rankings, he was ranked 10th and fell out of that.
Yeah, he's been kind of up and down, much like Sheldon before him at 184. He's proved that he belongs in the top tier guys at that 197 weight class. And, it's been shown by how well he's wrestled this season. 20-7, he's won his last 4 coming into tonight. And as well in this season, double digits, almost double digits, I should say, in pins on the year.
And now a single leg here for Roman. He looks to convert it into 2. And a double leg takedown for him. So he gets that first takedown. And it's important in these matches to get the first takedown of the match, get the first points, regardless if it's a takedown or escape. However it may come, it's important to get yourself off to a lead, as now he's got Horner on his back.
Boy, in some trouble down there. Initially, Horner snuck back in as he does this time, but 2 big moves where Roman almost gets a finishing move on him. Looks like a near fall, 3 points that time to Roman, and again, just working on those legs. And that's what we've seen him do. He was an Iowa Conference wrestler Performer of the Week a couple of weeks ago here at the beginning of the month, and you see him really work on the lower portions of guys right away to just take away, early you see it on your screen, to take away Horner's right leg, and then just tries to finish up through the rest of the body and keep them down low.
And now more back points for him. As they go out of bounds, he's going to get credit with 3 back points. 8-0 the score now. Still 1 minute and 5 seconds remaining in this first period. So Roman, good job just coming out and dominating. And we touch back on having strength and technique. Roman, big guy who looks, intimidating when you go out there. But it's not just his strength that he has. He's got a lot of technique to go along with the wrestler he is.
Yeah, no question. It was state champ his junior year in high school in Louisiana. Very well coached. Brother Martin, runner-up his senior year, 3rd place sophomore year. He's been around, again, a winning atmosphere really his entire career. He won the Dick Walker invite last year, Cornell Matman invite. He's taken 2nd and placed 4th in the region last year. So a guy who knows, what it takes to compete at this level, and who knows how to not only jump ahead early but dominate an effort in the first period and up 8-0. That's easily what he's done here in the opening 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
And right now it would stand as a major decision. He's looking to continue this dominance here with 30 seconds remaining going into the second period. He's up to just about 2 minutes of riding time. just adding to the dominance he's shown early on in this match.
Well, again, he's going to use his upper body strength against the lower body. He tries to pick against those back legs, and then when he can get his guy off balance, he's just going to just thrust through with his hips, push through, and just try to balance and get that guy's back onto the mat. And he's done that a number of times. This would be the third time, and Horner, again, with his experience, is able to combat that. But another near fall there for Roman to end off the period, already up double digits.
Yeah, great job by him. 11-0 with, again, the plus riding time, which will be added on eventually, unless we see Horner do something crazy here. But we mentioned a couple of guys being out of state, these two as well. Roman from Louisiana and Horner from Blue Springs, Missouri. So again, just the recruiting job by both these schools to get out of state and go find some other talent elsewhere.
Well, that just speaks for itself and how dominant these two programs have been in the Iowa Conference, attracting guys from out of the state. Missouri, another fine state right below us that perform, year in and year out, developing some of their young athletes. And it's very impressive to see some of the guys that make the trips up here to, some of the guys from out of state, Louisiana, New Jersey. The size differences, their high schools might have more people than some of these colleges like Wartburg and Co. And for them to come in here with, that much pride and away from home and to perform as well as they have, it's a pretty big deal.
And back to the center, these two wrestlers head. 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining in the second period. And if you just recently tuned in, the team scored 26-3 in favor of Wartburg. Their only loss would be at 165 pounds, where Farai Sawera defeated Nick Michael. So overall, a great job by the Knights so far. As in on a leg is Roman, as he converts that into a double leg and another 2 points, extending his lead to 13.
How about the finish on that play? You see his face. He recognizes that right leg is off balance, not only to grab it, and then he just has that drive. You see in him to able to grab it and then just finish through with his hips. He's really good at that. You've seen him in the opening period wrapping up so well and just pushing through, and that time nearly climbing up the distance of Horner, wrapping him up and then just throwing him to the ground to gain contact and control for the two.
Yeah, and you mentioned finishing. It's a big part of wrestling. It's a big part of all sports for that matter. If you have a big lead late in the game, you got to finish. If, for this instance, he's up 13-0 with, the third period and then 20 seconds remaining in the second left to go. You got to finish, and, he finishes the move as well. Paying attention to all those little details.
Well, I think on the side for Horner as well, that'll probably be it for him here. It's a near fall at the end of the second period, and it will do it. But, Horner, a guy that's got to learn to finish as well, and I think a loss tonight is going to help him down the road.
And he saw Roman there clapping his hands, looking at his bench. He did a great job, and he's very happy with himself, pleased with his performance tonight. And, like these fans are here, as they give him an applause, just dominating. And I know I've used the word a bunch, but that's just the type of performance it's been for individual wrestlers and the Knights tonight, just so dominant.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Steal your phrase once again, it's all about finishing. The Cohawks had 2 wins the last time out, so the Knights trying to improve, and unless Nagel has anything to say about it, the Cohawks going to just have that single victory tonight.
And you mentioned Nagel. Now it's Ben Nagel, who's ranked 5th, the senior from Long Grove, up against Nick Ellsbury, the sophomore from Byron, Illinois.
Yeah, another one of those senior guys, Nagel. A couple other seniors in the house creating some havoc tonight as well. But, he's had a tremendous season and shows you right there. A good pick down low just takes away the momentum early. And this crowd, you can sense it. They're just feeding off of it on every match tonight.
And with Roman's last victory, he gets up to his 20th win. So a lot of these Wartburg wrestlers up in those high teens are starting to get into those 20s.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's so big for those guys to maintain pace with each other, have some of those internal rivalries, so to speak.
And now Nagel going for 22 here, as he goes up against a slightly smaller Ellsbury. Obviously the heavyweight, 285 pounds. You got to think a lot of these wrestlers throughout the nation don't don't reach that 285. Ellsbury a little bit smaller of a framed guy. As Nagel going to work on top, up 2-0 halfway through the first period. And an escape here for Ellsbury as the two mutually go out of bounds. And it looks like the official's checking for blood.
I think he got him up near the forehead that time.
Yeah, you can see him just pause and look at Nagel and then look at Ellsbury. And as they tend to Ellsbury here, looks like it's up, yep. Under his hair there, up on the top of his forehead.
Well, really, Ellsbury, I mean, it's more so the muscle factor. It's not that traditional build you see by a lot of these heavyweight guys. And, you know, we talked about Welter being a little more lengthy. You can see that in Ellsbury as well, the sophomore from just across the river, Byron, Illinois. You know, he's got that size, but not the traditional build like you see with a guy like Nagel, who's just a little bit heavier set and has that lower balance approach to his style.
And, you know, with these two, Nagel, a guy you mentioned, the heavyweights tend to be, you know, boring and slow, and they just kind of lollygag around. But Nagel, a guy who, as you see, gets a takedown here. He's athletic, and Ellsbury, being the frame he is, like you mentioned, also has some athleticism to him. So don't expect a boring match here at this heavyweight.
I think you're exactly right. And talking about some of those, you know, internal battles, so to speak, week in and week out, these guys have, you know, in the wrestling room. You know, don't let it be a question. These heavyweight guys might get a little questions from some of those lower weights. Hey, you know, can't you score a little more points in some of your matches? And whether Nagel takes that to heart or not, but he's certainly proven himself tonight, being very aggressive here, still early in this first period.
And a near fall as he adds 3 to his total, 7-2 the score, with just 15 seconds remaining in the first period. As Nagel, you know, you make a great point. These guys are probably taking moves from each other. We saw other wrestlers kind of going to the Conor Campos style of being on his knees a lot through the match when he's supposed to be in that up position. You know, so these guys share ideas and share techniques throughout, which just makes them as successful as they are.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And you can transition that to the co-side as well. You know, some of these close matches, some of these tough ones, the 16-0 tech fall, you know, right before this one at the heavyweight weight class. I think you're exactly right into the fact that, you know, it's okay to steal some of those moves or techniques and realize, you know, some guys are going to, you know, be on some nights in a little bit of a rhythm. You know, just before us, you know, in Roman, Wagenhofer, another one of those guys that just seemed to have it tonight, and you can see it right away. Nagel going for his 20th win in a row on the season. A lot of these guys have gotten up to that 19-20 win mark, but it's tough to do those and keep that a consistent winning streak.
Yeah, consistency is key, like you just mentioned. It's one thing to come in one night and dominate, but the next night you got to repeat that, and you got to attribute to how they do it in the wrestling room every day at practice, how hard they work.
Yeah, there's no question about that. You can see it, and again, the depth of this roster, and you know, speaking about Nagel being a senior, you know, wrestling under a senior last year, Ryan Fank, I think it just transcends from year to year with a lot of these guys and how dominant they've been now. Going for that 23rd straight Iowa Conference title tonight.
Just over a minute remaining in the second period. 7-3 your score. As the two are tied up, fighting for inside position. And now Nagel getting close to a takedown as he gets awarded there. Good job by him. Kind of got caught in a weird position with Ellsbury on his leg. Did a good job freeing up that leg and getting around for the two.
And much like some of those, you know, matchups before, just controlling things on top. Obviously, you know, the man in bottom, Nick Ellsbury, hasn't had a lot of opportunities, but I think more so it's been impressive in the fact tonight, not how some of these matchups have turned out in the total scoring efforts, but I think how dominant Wartburg has been on top. Riding time just at 3 minutes now as the period comes to a close. And, that's huge for these guys. Going down to the rest of the year, and if they meet up with some of these guys in the future to, say, I was on top for 3 or 4 minutes in some of these matches, controlling things physically. That goes to the head of a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I was just about to point that out right before you did. Wagenhofer with 4+ minutes of riding time. We saw Roman get some riding time, and now Nagel was above 3 minutes, but now with Ellsbury on top, chipping away at that. 12-3 the score here at Levick Arena at this heavyweight matchup, rounding off the night in this conference duel between the Knights and the Cohawks.
Ellsbury, we talked about Coe kind of shaking up the lineups a little bit, much like the Knights have done with the depth on their roster, but just being the sophomore, hasn't had a plethora of opportunities at this varsity spot for a lot of these dual matchups. Only his 8th appearance, 4-3 on the year, so if Nagel would hold on to his score right now, would be at a 4-4 record. But certainly, again, a lot of these youngsters for the Cohawks, a lot that they can draw away from tonight, especially I think a guy like Ellsbury, who has seen some of the top guys, not only in the Iowa Conference, but the nation here in the Iowa Conference and the Minnesota and Intercollegiate Athletic Conference the last few years, right here in this central region.
And out of bounds near the Cohawk fans as they head back to the center with just under a minute remaining in this third period.
Now going head-to-head again, it's important for both guys. I think more so for Ellsbury in this case to take some momentum with him down the road, but I think for Nagel to try to finish strong. He had that very, very powerful and impressive opening period, and it's important for a lot of these guys, as we've talked about, whether you're on the side for Coe or for Wartburg. If you're in a lot closer matchup, you're going to need guys to really finish off some drives, and whether you're down by 10 or up by 10, you really need to see both guys try to take some more shots here, stay aggressive. Although we talk about week in and week out the heavyweight position, when you get into this third period, guys are tired at this point.
Yeah, and what you touched on goes back to what we said earlier, finishing and being consistent.
That's exactly what Nagel's done in this one. Another takedown.
Looks like the final score will end up being 16-3 with the riding time as the clock runs out, giving him a major decision. Making the final score here, 35-3. Again, the lone victory coming from Sowera. And a good job by both teams here, although the score lopsided, which seems we have to say a lot in favor of the Knights. A battle by both teams throughout. We'll take a quick break here on Night Vision, and we'll be right back.
These things just crush my...
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people. Connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
As Warburg alumni, we're proud to support Knights Athletics. And as First National Bank employees, we're here to serve you first.
And welcome back here on Night Vision. Tyler Metcalf alongside me was Matt Groomer throughout this night to give you all the action here. And a quick little recap here is, you know, the Knights dominated throughout this meet the whole night, 35-3 the final score. And we mentioned throughout the matches, riding time was a big part in tonight's victories.
Yeah, I think that's a common theme tonight. You look at how dominant these guys have been, and, you know, we could say just another day at the office for the Knights, but they seem to always find one more way to do themselves a little bit better, and I think tonight controlling themselves on top was a big thing, and certainly in dominating fashion for a lot of these seniors, a fitting win for them in their last time at Levick Arena.
Yep, and again, like you mentioned, senior night, and I was just told Wartburg now won their 23rd straight Iowa Conference title.
Yeah, securing it.
Now holds the D3 record. So just, you know, an incredible job by them over past 23 years, and throughout all of their history, they've been just a great team, very successful.
Yeah, it's so, you know, it's so amazing to talk about this team. 23 straight years, obviously more than you and I have been here on the earth, Tyler, but it's just amazing how consistent they can be and how dominant they can be up and down. We talked about recruiting. Certainly a reason this team has done so well, and as dominating effort as these guys did up and down the lineup tonight. I think a lot of youngsters out there seeing this team might know what school they want to maybe wrestle for in the future.
Yeah, and it starts with Jim Miller, now carried over to Eric Keller. They've done a good job just kind of instilling the success and the mindset and the dominance that they've had. Again, I've used dominance a lot all night, but it's a word that needs to be used for these guys. And you mentioned recruiting. Recruiting's a little bit easier for a team who's so dominant. You know, wrestlers out of high school want to go wrestle for teams who are going to compete for national champions every year.
Well, I think you can say it for our opponent as well tonight. Coe coming in, their record now moved to 4-2 in the Iowa Conference, 7-8. Obviously not where they want to be in the overall standings, but I think a job well done by Coe tonight. And you know they've done a great job recruiting overall, and certainly have a lot to look forward to. They've been one of those top teams here in the Iowa Conference week in and week out, and I think the way they exposed themselves tonight in a big way, a couple of tough losses down the road, but I think they've got a lot to prove in the coming weeks as well.
Yeah, and a great job here, and that's all we have for wrestling here on the air on Night Vision, but we do still have some basketball, and again, the final score 35-3 in favor of Wartburg. And again, credit to the Cohawks coming out doing a good job throughout, although the score is a little lopsided. The final score 35-3. For Matt Groomer, I'm Tyler Metcalf. Thank you for watching on Night Vision.